A black couple walked into a dealership to buy their dream car, but the manager looked them in the eye and refused to sell because of their skin color. What happened next wasn't just revenge. It was a shocking act that left everyone speechless and exposed the ugly truth about racism in business. Derrick and Lisa Johnson had spent years dreaming about this moment. They were a hard-working black couple from Atlanta who had overcome countless obstacles to build a life they could be proud of. Derrick was a high school math teacher who stayed late to tutor struggling students, while Lisa worked tirelessly as a nurse, often pulling double shifts. They had been saving every spare dollar for nearly 4 years to afford their first brand new car, a sleek red SUV that symbolized everything they had worked so hard to achieve. The dealership came highly recommended. It was known for having a wide selection of vehicles and advertising unbeatable deals. That Saturday morning, the couple woke up early, excitement bubbling between them as they prepared to make their long-awaited purchase. Derrick adjusted his tie in the mirror, wanting to look his best. "Can you believe this is finally happening?" he asked, his voice tinged with both disbelief and joy. Lisa, holding their 6-year-old daughter Alana's hand, smiled warmly. "We've earned this, Derrick. This car will make our lives so much easier." As they pulled into the dealership lot, the sun reflected off rows of shiny cars. The red SUV they had seen online gleamed in the distance. "There it is," Lisa said, pointing with excitement. Derrick couldn't help but laugh at her enthusiasm. Inside, they were greeted by a receptionist who smiled briefly before her eyes shifted uneasily. "Let me get the manager," she said, hurrying away. Moments later, the manager, a middle-aged white man with a pinched expression, strode toward them. His name tag read, "Mr. Walters." Derrick extended his hand with a warm smile. "Good morning. We're here to buy the red SUV we saw on your website." Mr. Walters didn't shake Derrick's hand. Instead, he folded his arms, his eyes narrowing as he scanned them up and down. "I'm not sure that vehicle is available," he said, his tone curt. Lisa, taken aback, asked, "Is there an issue?" "We saw it listed just this morning, and we're ready to buy it today." Mr. Walters' lips curled into a thin, disapproving smile. "Look, I think you'd be more comfortable looking at something different," he said, gesturing toward an older, worn-down sedan parked off to the side. Derrick frowned. "We've saved specifically for that SUV. If it's available, we'd like to see the numbers." Mr. Walters sighed loudly, his impatience obvious. "It's not a good fit. Maybe try a different dealership. I think our cars might be out of your price range." Lisa's heart sank, and she felt Alana squeeze her hand tightly. "Excuse me?" she asked, her voice trembling. Mr. Walters leaned in slightly, lowering his voice as if he were doing them a favor. "Look, I don't want to waste your time. People like you won't qualify for the financing we require. Let's not make this harder than it has to be." The words hung in the air like a slap. Derrick clenched his jaw, struggling to keep his composure. "What exactly do you mean by people like us?" he asked, his voice steady but icy. "Don't play dumb," Mr. Walters snapped, his tone losing any pretense of politeness. "You know exactly what I mean." Lisa felt tears sting her eyes as she glanced down at Alana, who looked up at her parents, confused, but sensing something was very wrong. Derrick stepped closer, his voice firm. "We have the money. We've been approved for financing. You don't even know anything about us." Mr. Walters smirked, his expression cold. "I don't need to know. Now, I'm asking you to leave before I call security." The humiliation was suffocating. Lisa's hands shook as she pulled Alana closer, whispering, "Come on, sweetie. Let's go." Derrick didn't move, his feet planted firmly on the ground. His voice was low but filled with fury as he stared Mr. Walters in the eye. "You'll regret this," he said simply, before turning to leave with his family. As they walked back to their car, Lisa broke down in tears. "Why does this keep happening? We did everything right. We worked so hard," she said, her voice cracking. Derrick wrapped his arms around her and Alana, his own eyes brimming with anger and pain. "Because some people refuse to see past the color of our skin," he said quietly, determination hardening in his voice. "But they picked the wrong family to mess with. This isn't over, Lisa." Little did Mr. Walters know, the Johnsons weren't about to walk away quietly. The drive home was silent, the weight of humiliation and anger hanging heavily in the air. Derrick's knuckles whitened as he gripped the steering wheel, his mind racing with thoughts of what had just happened. Lisa stared out the window, her tear-streaked face a reflection of the pain she felt not just for herself, but for Alana, who sat quietly in the back seat, her innocence shattered by the ugliness of the encounter. That evening, as the family gathered around the dinner table, the mood was somber. Alana picked at her food, her usual energy dulled. "Mommy, why didn't the man want to sell us the car?" she asked softly, her big eyes filled with confusion. Lisa's heart broke as she struggled to find an answer that a 6-year-old could understand. "Sometimes people make bad decisions because they don't know any better," she said, forcing a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Derrick put down his fork, his jaw tightening. "That's not good enough," he said firmly. He looked at Lisa, his determination clear. "We can't let this slide. If we walk away, he'll just keep doing this to other families." Lisa nodded, though the pain in her chest made her voice waver. "But what can we do, Derrick? People like him don't face consequences. They'll say it's his word against ours." Derrick's eyes narrowed. "Then we make it impossible for them to ignore. We have the truth on our side, and this time, the world is going to see it." The next day, Derrick began reaching out to friends, family, and community leaders who could help shine a light on the dealership's actions. Lisa, still shaken but determined, started writing a detailed account of what had happened, describing the way Mr. Walters had dismissed them, humiliated them, and blatantly discriminated against them. "What if we share our story online?" Lisa asked one evening as they sat together, reviewing her draft. "People need to hear this, Derrick. We can't let it be another story that goes untold." Derrick nodded thoughtfully. "We'll post it, but that's just the beginning. We need to make sure it reaches the right people. People who can amplify it and make it impossible for them to sweep under the rug." They uploaded their story to social media, complete with a photo of the red SUV they had tried to purchase and a detailed description of their experience. Lisa's post began, "Yesterday, my husband, daughter and I walked into dealership name to buy our dream car. We were excited, hopeful, and ready to celebrate years of hard work. Instead, we were told to our faces that we didn't belong there. The manager refused to sell us the car simply because of the color of our skin. This isn't just about us. This is about every family that's been treated unfairly because of who they are. We're speaking out because it's time for this to stop." Within hours, the post began to gain traction. Friends and family shared it widely, but it didn't stop there. The story resonated deeply with strangers who read it, each comment a testament to the shared frustration and pain caused by systemic racism. "Disgusting behavior. Name and shame them," one comment read. "This breaks my heart. Stay strong. We're behind you," said another. By the next morning, the post had been shared thousands of times. Local news outlets picked it up, and before long, Derrick and Lisa were receiving calls from reporters wanting to interview them. The Johnsons sat down with a journalist from a prominent news station, recounting their story on camera. "This isn't just about a car," Derrick said, his voice steady but passionate. "It's about the message people like Mr. Walters send when they think they can get away with this behavior. We're here to say, enough is enough." Lisa added, "We're not doing this for revenge. We're doing this so no one else has to feel the way we felt that day." As the story gained national attention, people began calling out the dealership on its social media pages. One post after another flooded the comment section, demanding accountability and vowing to boycott the business until action was taken. "Did you think this would go unnoticed? We're watching," wrote one user. "Sell them the car or shut down your business," another declared. Meanwhile, Derrick and Lisa weren't done. They began reaching out to civil rights organizations, seeking advice on how to take legal action. "This is bigger than us," Derrick explained during a phone call with the NAACP. "We want to use this moment to push for real change." By the end of the week, the dealership's name was plastered across headlines, trending on social media under hashtags like #Justice for the Johnsons and #End Racism in Business. Mr. Walters, who had been so smug and dismissive, now found himself at the center of a growing storm. But the Johnsons were only just beginning to unveil their boldest move yet, one that would turn the tables on the dealership in a way no one expected. As the story of the Johnsons spread across the internet and news outlets, the backlash against the dealership reached a fever pitch. Derrick and Lisa received messages of support from across the country. People of all backgrounds shared their own stories of discrimination, turning the Johnsons' ordeal into a rallying cry for change. But for Derrick, the fight wasn't over. "We need to make sure this goes beyond just bad PR," he told Lisa one evening. "This is about holding them accountable, not just for us, but for everyone they've wronged." The couple decided it was time to escalate their efforts. After consulting with civil rights attorneys and local activists, they devised a plan that would expose the dealership in a way that couldn't be ignored. With the help of the NAACP and a team of lawyers, the Johnsons filed a formal complaint against the dealership for discriminatory practices, citing both state and federal laws. The lawsuit accused the dealership of violating the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which prohibits discrimination in public accommodations based on race. "This isn't just about one family," said their attorney during a press conference. "It's about sending a message to every business that thinks they can treat people this way. Discrimination has no place in our society." On a sunny Saturday afternoon, hundreds of supporters gathered outside the dealership for a peaceful protest. Derrick and Lisa stood at the forefront, holding signs that read, "No racism in business," and "Equality over profits." The crowd chanted as passing cars honked in solidarity. News crews captured the scene, broadcasting it live across the state. One protester, a local pastor, delivered a powerful speech. "Today we stand not just for the Johnsons, but for every person who has ever been told they don't belong. We're here to demand justice, fairness, and dignity." Inside the dealership, Mr. Walters paced nervously. Business had plummeted in the days following the Johnsons' viral story. Customers cancelled orders, employees quit, and the dealership's phone lines were flooded with complaints. "This is getting out of hand," he muttered to a colleague, but the damage was already done. As the legal and public pressure mounted, Derrick and Lisa decided to take their fight directly to the dealership's parent company. Using their growing platform, they reached out to influential figures in the industry, including executives, consumer advocates, and even high-profile celebrities who had spoken out against racism. Within days, their efforts paid off. An executive from the company's headquarters reached out to arrange a meeting. Derrick and Lisa sat across from a panel of senior leaders, recounting their experience in vivid detail. "We trusted your brand," Lisa said, her voice breaking with emotion. "We wanted to celebrate a milestone in our lives, and instead we were humiliated in front of our daughter. How can you allow this to happen under your name?" The executives listened intently, their expressions grave. One of them, visibly shaken, responded, "We deeply regret what happened to your family. This doesn't reflect our values, and we are committed to making this right." But Derrick wasn't satisfied with apologies. "Words mean nothing if there's no action," he said firmly. "What are you going to do to ensure this never happens again?" The meeting concluded with the company promising a full investigation into the dealership's practices. They also agreed to mandatory diversity and inclusion training for all employees and a public statement denouncing discrimination. Just as the dealership's parent company began rolling out changes, Derrick and Lisa unveiled the final piece of their plan. They had quietly partnered with a local non-profit organization focused on racial justice, raising funds to create scholarships for young black students pursuing business degrees. The scholarship was named the Alana Hope Initiative, after their daughter, as a symbol of the future they wanted to build, one where no child would ever feel the sting of discrimination. At a press conference announcing the scholarship, Derrick addressed the crowd. "What started as an act of hatred has turned into something beautiful. We can't erase what happened to us, but we can." The dealership faced devastating consequences. The investigation revealed a pattern of discriminatory behavior under Mr. Walters' management, leading to his immediate termination. The dealership was also fined heavily, and under mounting pressure, it issued a public apology to the Johnson family. But for Derrick and Lisa, the true victory was the change they had sparked. Their story had ignited a nationwide conversation about racism in business, inspiring others to speak out and demand accountability. As Derrick watched Alana play in their front yard one evening, he felt a sense of peace he hadn't felt in weeks. "We turned their hate into something powerful," he said, wrapping an arm around Lisa. "That's a lesson Alana will carry with her forever." Lisa nodded. a proud smile on her face. And we're just getting started. The fallout from the Johnsons' story continued to grow, sending shockwaves far beyond their local community. News outlets across the country featured headlines like, "Family exposes racist car dealership," and the public rallied around the Johnsons' courage in taking a stand. For Derrick and Lisa, the victory was sweet, but the fight wasn't over. They wanted to make a lasting impact. In the weeks following the dealership's public apology and Mr. Walters's firing, something incredible began to happen. Strangers from all walks of life reached out to Derrick and Lisa, offering their support and sharing their own stories of discrimination. One email stood out to Lisa. It was from an older black woman named Sylvia who had lived through the civil rights movement. "What you've done is what so many of us dreamed of seeing in our lifetime," Sylvia wrote. "You've shown the world that standing up makes a difference. Thank you for giving me hope." Derrick and Lisa were deeply moved by the outpouring of solidarity. Inspired by the connections they were building, they decided to host a community forum on racial equality and justice in business. Held at a local church, the event was packed, with attendees spilling out onto the lawn. During the forum, Derrick spoke passionately about their journey. "We didn't set out to make headlines," he said. "We just wanted to buy a car like anyone else. But when someone tells you that you don't belong, you have a choice. Let them define you, or stand up and say, 'I deserve better.'" Lisa added, "This isn't just about us. It's about building a future where no one has to feel the way we did that day. Together, we can make that future possible." The event ended with a standing ovation, and the momentum didn't stop there. The parent company of the dealership, under intense scrutiny, made sweeping changes to its policies. They announced a zero-tolerance policy for discriminatory behavior across all their franchises and partnered with national organizations to implement diversity and equity training. But Derrick wasn't about to take their promises at face value. He insisted on transparency and accountability. "We want to see these policies in action," he said during a follow-up meeting with company executives. "This can't just be a PR stunt. It has to be real change." To prove their commitment, the company invited Derrick and Lisa to serve as advisors on a newly formed task force aimed at addressing racial inequities in the automotive industry. Reluctant at first, they ultimately agreed, knowing they could use their voices to drive meaningful reform. The scholarship program Derrick and Lisa had established in Alana's name quickly gained traction, raising thousands of dollars in its first month. Businesses, philanthropists, and everyday people contributed, moved by the Johnsons' vision of turning their pain into progress. One afternoon, Lisa received a message from a young man named Marcus, a college freshman who had just been awarded one of the scholarships. "Because of you, I'm the first person in my family to go to college," he wrote. "I'm going to make you proud." Lisa showed the message to Derrick, tears welling in her eyes. "This is why we fought," she said softly. The couple decided to host an annual gala to celebrate the scholarship recipients and continue raising funds. At the first event, Derrick addressed the crowd, his voice filled with emotion. "When we were told no, we could have let that be the end of our story. But instead we turned it into something bigger. This scholarship is proof that hate doesn't have the last word. Hope does." Amid all the progress, Derrick and Lisa never forgot the humiliation they felt that day at the dealership. But they refused to let it define them. With the support of their community, they finally purchased their dream car, not from the dealership that rejected them, but from a black-owned business that treated them with respect and dignity. Driving the sleek red SUV home, Derrick glanced in the rearview mirror at Alana, who was grinning ear to ear. "You happy back there?" he asked. "Yeah," she said, giggling. "I love this car." Lisa reached over to hold Derrick's hand. "We did it," she said, her voice full of pride. Derrick smiled, his heart swelling with gratitude. "No," he replied. "We didn't just buy a car. We proved that no matter how much someone tries to hold you back, you can rise above and make a difference." What started as one family's fight for justice had grown into a movement. The Johnsons became prominent advocates for racial equality in business, using their story to inspire others to stand up and speak out. Their journey wasn't easy, but it was worth it. Through their courage, they had exposed the ugly truth of racism and turned it into a powerful force for change. proving that even in the face of hate, love, and resilience could shine brighter. Months after their ordeal, the Johnsons found themselves at the forefront of a growing national conversation about racial discrimination in business. What had started as an act of blatant racism at a car dealership had snowballed into something far greater, a call to action that inspired countless others to stand up against injustice. Derrick and Lisa were invited to speak at conferences, universities, and events, sharing their story with audiences eager to learn and take action. At one event, held at a packed auditorium, Derrick addressed the crowd. When someone tells you that you're not worthy because of the color of your skin, they're not just trying to take something from you. They're trying to take your dignity, your pride, and your hope. But we're here to say that no one has that power unless you let them. Stand tall, speak up, and fight back, not with hate, but with determination. The audience erupted into applause, standing in solidarity with the family who had refused to stay silent. The ripple effects of their actions extended far and wide. Inspired by the Johnsons, other families began sharing their experiences with discrimination, exposing injustices that had long been hidden in the shadows. The automotive industry in particular faced increased scrutiny, with advocacy groups calling for widespread reform. Major companies, feeling the pressure, announced new initiatives to address systemic biases. Policies were implemented to ensure fair treatment for all customers, and industry watchdog organizations emerged to monitor compliance. The Johnsons also worked closely with local and national lawmakers, advocating for stricter penalties for businesses found guilty of discrimination. Their testimony before a congressional committee was a pivotal moment, with Lisa recounting their story in vivid detail. "No one should have to fight this hard just to be treated like a human being," she said, her voice cracking with emotion. "We need laws that hold businesses accountable for their actions." As their platform grew, Derrick and Lisa remained focused on the next generation. They spent time mentoring young people, especially those pursuing careers in business and law, teaching them how to navigate challenges and use their voices to create change. During one mentorship event, Alana, now 7, stood beside her parents, proudly handing out certificates to scholarship recipients. "My mommy and daddy always tell me to be brave," she said to the crowd, earning smiles and applause. Derrick knelt beside her, his voice steady but emotional. "You're the reason we fought so hard, Alana, because we want you to grow up in a world where bravery doesn't mean fighting racism. It means chasing your dreams." The dealership that had once humiliated them eventually shut its doors for good. Despite its attempts to rebuild its reputation, the damage was irreparable. Derrick and Lisa's story had exposed a culture of prejudice that couldn't be ignored, and customers simply refused to return. For the Johnsons, seeing the empty lot where the dealership once stood was bittersweet. It wasn't about revenge. It was about justice. "This isn't something to celebrate," Derrick said as they drove past one day. "It's a reminder that change starts with accountability." Lisa nodded. "And we've shown that when people come together, they can demand that accountability." Years later, as they prepared for the 3rd annual gala for the Alana Hope Initiative, the Johnsons reflected on how far they had come. The scholarship fund had grown exponentially, providing opportunities for hundreds of young black students to pursue higher education and careers in business. Their story had become a symbol of resilience and hope, proving that even in the face of blatant racism, individuals could create meaningful change. Derrick and Lisa had turned their pain into progress, their anger into action, and their humiliation into a platform for justice. Standing on the stage at the gala, Derrick addressed the audience with his signature blend of humility and passion. "This isn't just our story, it's all of ours. Because when we stand together, there's nothing we can't overcome." The crowd erupted into applause. But for Derrick and Lisa, the greatest reward was knowing they had left a legacy, not just for their daughter, but for generations to come. As they left the stage and joined Alana at their table, Lisa took Derrick's hand. "We didn't just buy a car," she said, smiling. "We bought back our power." Derrick nodded, his heart full. "And we're never letting it go again."